Hello, everybody, and welcome to another's Adventures in Truth livecast. My name is Jim Case, and I am your host for today and every day that we do the show, actually. Welcome to the show. Today, we have a conversation with Moshe. I'm excited to have Moshe back to the show. And we're doing a little twist on things today, in that he's going to be interviewing me. I'm going to be asking some questions and talking about the things that have evolved in my life that have brought about this book and what's happening with the book. So I am very excited about that. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's take a couple minutes, if we could. I want to talk about my book, Fear is a Choice: Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, is publishing on the 29th of this month. Yes, so excited. Been an amazing process. Worked with an incredible editor, Stacy Aronson, who has been absolutely extraordinary in the process. But we have Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, and also Kindle is available. So excited about that. Not going to do a reading today because I want to take the time to, in session with Moshe, because we'll be talking a lot about the book and referencing the book and stuff in my life. So figured that would be a good way to go about this today. About the book itself, just an encapsulation of this. I really believe strongly and truly that this book will change your life. And the reason that I say that is because when you change your relationship with fear, that changes your life irrevocably. I mean, the impact is profound. It's a time process. You know, this is an evolution. We've been, each of us, on this planet and in this process for a long time. So learning how to disengage from fear, learning how fear works, learning how it moves through our culture and through the human experience, and then learning how you can step away from it, how you can disengage it. It's never going to go away, but you can change how you interact with it in such a way that it gives you a different alignment. You create a whole different vibration because that fear element is not running your experience. So I encourage you, pre-orders are still open. Go to my website, www.adventuresintruth.com, and take a look at what's there. You'll see there are links to all of the places you can order. So if you prefer one to another, that's fantastic. Pre-orders will be shipping at the end of the month. And again, super excited to be here, super excited to have you here. Let's take a sec and do a quick commercial, shall we? I'll see you on the other side. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Jim's here, and I'm checking on Moshe. It appears he's ready. Is he waving? Are you good? He's ready. Here we go. Bring Moshe. Hi, Moshe.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, your microphone was a little rowdy there, but it sounds like it settled down.
Okay.
All right. Here we are. A new conversation with Moshe. Excited to be here. We are going to be talking today, I guess, about me.
You look thrilled.
I am. I'm excited and a little weirded out, but hey, you know, I've never been down this lane before, so I'm adjusting my light here. I'm a little bright. And so it's been a pretty amazing process. You know, even talking to, when I was working with Stacy and as we wrote the note to the readers in the book, and wanting to really lay out the foundation of where this book came from and why I'm doing it and what that's all about. And so it really requires me to step out in a way that I have not really, and I don't mean that I've been necessarily hiding, it's just changes, it's a change in paradigm because I'm putting a book into the world. So that means I got to kind of go with it in a way,
Right.
especially because It's about my experience. But anyway, for those of you who have not been on the show before, with these conversations with Moshe, the evolution of this actually is sort of one of those full circle moments. Moshe and I met 5 or 6 years ago, and Moshe was a client for a while, and then we became very good friends. And over the course of that time, we would gather and have these conversations, and these conversations were always about consciousness and about how to navigate, how to realiggn, all that kind of stuff. And we would always talk about, or actually Moshe would always talk about, I shouldn't say we, because I was not one that was going, yeah, let's do that. Was about recording these conversations and being able to get them recorded, because they were such great conversations and could be very useful and helpful. And here we are, these many years later, actually getting to have this extraordinary platform to have these conversations. And it's even better than we could have, at least from my perspective, even better than we could have imagined, years ago, thinking about doing this. So
yes, and I want to add one detail.
Yeah.
That's the reason I would say that is not just because the conversations were really stimulating and interesting and provocative and I thought would be useful to other people, but it was what happened. What word should I use? What happened through you. So, and I want your listeners and viewers, especially new ones, to be aware of this thing you do. We'll be having this conversation about whatever it is, some deep topic, and then Jim goes into this zone and his voice changes a little bit. Something happens. I don't know what it is, but it's like he becomes a channeler and this stuff comes out, and it is extraordinary. And when that happens, I don't even know if you know what you're saying.
Sometimes I notice what happens for me sometimes is if like I don't know if it's a get in the way thing where there's a flow going, and sometimes there's so much, it seems like there's so much available information that I'll lose track sometimes, or I'll be right in the middle of a string, and I got to a point in it where it's like, oh no, that's not the right string. I got to go back and
Yes.
the right thread to pull. But typically it just sort of evolves that, I don't know that I'm aware of I'm aware of a change in my own experience, but I'm also aware of an intense focus that takes place.
Yes.
That to me is kind of how it feels on the inside, is sort of this coalescing, and then it just sort of.
Yeah, like a download. So I think of it as, I think of what happens with you as sort of a variation of what Esther Hicks does with Abraham.
Could well be. I've not attempted to go there well, maybe I am going there and just I'm not aware of that I'm going there. Except to the degree that I am. But yeah, so this is going to be fun. I have no idea really what Moshe is going to be asking. I have no idea where we're going to be going with this conversation. Only in general broad strokes. So I always like that, because you can't prepare. And to me, that speaks to the whole idea of fear as a choice in a nutshell, is I can step into that and feel empowered in that space instead of feeling afraid of that space, because I have no perception that there's anything that Moshe could put in my space or could bring to the space that I would not be able or competent to respond to. And if I can't, I'm also perfectly willing to say I don't have a freaking clue what you're talking about. So it's kind of a fun thing in that regard. But I like that because it's really in the moment about how you get your alignment. And so I hope that that's what we get to see here, is that in part, learning about what the evolution of where I've come from with, and that's brought me to this place, but also how it unfolds and what it feels like to find that alignment. It's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to take a couple minutes here, and we're going to take a moment to focus like we usually do. I'm going to leave you in the green room for a minute, Moshe, and we'll come back right after this few minutes of getting ourselves focused and present right now.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, gang. Shake it off. That's what I got. I got to shake it off. All that energy building, all that excitement building, all that stuff happening. So let's just take a moment, bring yourself completely present with now and your body. So I want you to bring all of your awareness to your body at this moment. I'll ask you to close your eyes if you can, or create a very soft focus. Whatever you can do to bring your awareness completely inside your body. Good. And what are you noticing as you're sitting inside? And you may find yourself being a little confused or resisting. Maybe you can, in your closed eye, you can see the outside of your body, but you can't see the inside of your body. Just breathe, stay with the process, and continue to focus. Just this is your awareness. This is all of your awareness. Choose where you want to place that awareness. You may never have been there before, and that's okay. But allow yourself to go there. Allow yourself to feel the inside. And now allow your awareness to just move through your body. And this is an incredible experience of tapping into the reality of who you are in awareness. Because notice that you can move your awareness however and wherever you want it. Notice that you can expand it and contract it however and whenever you choose it. Right now, we're expanding our awareness inside of our body. Let your awareness scan, bring down to the toes and up through the legs and the knees and into the hips. Just let the awareness flow and be aware of what you're experiencing. As you're moving through your legs, are you feeling a sense of connection and groundedness? Are you feeling discomfort? What are you feeling inside? Let the awareness continue to move as it moves around. I notice a little bit of a hiccup around my right kidney area. So just bringing awareness to it, letting the breath unfold in that space. And then continue to allow that awareness to move through the body. And now bringing your awareness to your breath. Breath is the foundation of our experience. Breath is prana. Breath is chi. Breath is life force. So the more we learn to manage our breath, the more we learn to interact with our breath, the more we learn to allow our breath, the deeper our expansion, the greater our growth, because that foundation sets the stage for everything that comes after. So we're going to continue to breathe through. I want your awareness on your breath now, continuing inside. Notice how your breath is flowing in your body. Notice how it feels. Notice how you breathe. Is it an expanding breath? Is it a utility breath? Is it an unconscious breath? Is it a conscious breath? How does it fill the lungs? How does the chest move? Being aware of all of it without attaching to any of it. So we're going to continue in this as in a breathing cycle. Now I want, as you are conscious of your breath, I want you to actively engage your breath. We're going to inhale to a count of 4, fully realized breath, full inhale, lifting and filling the chest completely. At the top, we're going to rest and relax the body in fullness. And then we're going to release from the mouth, pushing all of that air, all that stale energy, all that stale air, pushing it out to a count of 6. Pushing and removing and releasing all of that old stale energy and breath. And as you get to the empty, as you get to the bottom, you're going to rest again for just a second, relaxing the body in that void. And then consciously re-engaging the lungs and the breath as you expand and open, inhaling through the nose again. So bringing that awareness forward, bringing it completely present in your body and in your breath. We're going to begin with an inhale. Inhaling, 2, 3, 4. We're holding at the top, relaxing, and then releasing from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, pushing it all out. 5, 6, feeling that emptiness, resting in it. Engage the lungs, inhale, fill completely. 2, 3, 4 at the top, relax, and then release from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. And resting in the void, resting in the emptiness. Just as comfortable, full as empty. Engaging and inhaling, filling completely, back, front, sides, 360 degrees as we hit the top, full, and relaxing into that. Feel that. And then release from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, purging it all out. 5, feeling the cleansing. 6, you're resting at the bottom, relaxing the shoulders, choosing the engagement, inhaling and lifting, opening. 2, 3, 4, filling that fullness, feeling it completely, and then releasing from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and resting in empty as you continue the rhythm on your own. Continue to focus the breath as you inhale, focusing your energy, feeling this shift occur in your state as you calm the energy system at the top, and you're releasing, continuing through that cycle, continuing to breathe. And as you continue that, I want you to take in these words. Just allow them to move through you. Some may stick, some may go. Just be in the energy of these words. I am the evolution of God realized as matter. I inform and guide that expression as the pure expression of God. I show up as God. I connect as God. I align as God. I am creation realized. And from that, I create, expand, and engage. I am. Breathing that in. Excellent job. Feel your awareness now as you bring your awareness back into this space, staying connected to the breath and the body, but being aware and present now in this moment with us on Adventures in Truth. Just bring your awareness fully to present as we bring Mona back in, or Moshe back in. Fantastic. Thank you all very much. And off we go. Exciting, exciting. How you doing, Moshe?
Good. Felt good.
Yeah, that was nice. That felt really good. All right, here we go. Let's talk. Let's talk. I was laughing at myself when I was making this because I was thinking categories. I don't have to do a whole lot of categories. We're just going to talk, and then we're going to talk some more. So, all right, I am turning it over to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your trust in doing that.
Absolutely.
So I thought we'd start by diving right in.
Okay.
With a simple and challenging question for you, for all of us, actually. Tell us, Jim, why are you here?
Wow. Yeah, no kidding. Just go for it. Why am I here? I believe ultimately I'm reminded, it's funny, that question always stimulates a memory of when I was, I had already left home and had gone to visit a very good friend of mine in college. She was in college, I was not. And had an amazing experience there and decided to go to school there. It was a private Catholic college. And the short version, I remember I had to ask I was not living at home, and I had to go back and ask my parents to co-sign for a student loan so I could go to school. And one of the things that I said, and I remember standing in the living room saying this really clearly. I said, really want to be clear about this with you guys. I'm not going for grades. I'm going for the experience. And that's been true of my life as long as, everything I've done. I mean, it seems like it could seem like a hodgepodge, but in the process of doing this and writing this book, I really, really tapped into that personal evolution and realizing that I've been doing that experience piece my whole life. That it's been, what can I experience and how deeply can I experience it? And so that's left, that I've sort of approached everything from there. So when I talk about feeling my way into things, it's all about that experience of experiencing. I want to have those experiences. So why am I here? I feel like I'm here to experience, and then to obviously now to share those experiences, because that seems to be a natural response to having them. You know what I mean? Like, I know we talk a lot when we do these shows, and one of the things that I love is that I can pull from so many different places of experience because I've allowed myself to go there. So that whenever I'm talking about concepts and consciousness, I can always relate it to something I've actually experienced, something I've actually walked, and that to me is everything, because it means that I've been fully engaged in my experience, but also that I can talk from a place of authority about my own experience, which is what it's about. And then if that experience is satisfying to you or in some way stimulating to you, then you can take that and run with it. But because it's something I experienced, I know that it can be experienced by anybody.
Yes, beautiful. Well, and that means that your authority, as you put it, in writing this book is your experience. And what better source of credibility than experience?
Yes, and there's a lot of that in the book. A lot of references to things in my life, and then actually realizing that there's a lot that never got in the book, not because because of just like this process. I don't think that way. In meaning, I don't think about how do I leverage this for that. Like, so how do I leverage my life for a book? The book came about, and out as a result of that, now, in order for me to promote this deeply personal experience, I have to show up. I have to talk about things that I don't typically talk about, because I don't think about them. It isn't an avoidance process. It's just been there, done that. It was an experience, and now I'm not having that experience anymore. I'm somewhere else completely. So and there's a lot of those. Some major type of experiences that with cancer and with disease process and with death and dying and things that I had the experience. So it's done now. I'm on to other things and other experiences, and how do I enhance those experiences? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the beauty of that is you've come to a point in life, well, and maybe you've been here for many, many years, where you trust because your life has been based on experiences and taking them in fully without judging them, ideally, that you can tap into that and trust it in making decisions about moving forward. So, for example, in writing your book, I shared some resources I use in writing my book that was pretty prescriptive, like, okay, 6 months ahead of time, do this,
Right.
4 months ahead of time, do this. And you looked into it and then realized you weren't feeling it. It wasn't, it just wasn't. So something you were able to sit with the possibility, tap into your experience about that choice, and say that's not now.
Not right. And that's the thing about it that I think is important is nothing is forever. So if something shows up in my world, like we're talking about this writing stuff that you shared with me, it's still sitting in my email. I've been to it easily 20 times in the course of the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And everything that shows up, I mean, I feel my way into. So I'm like, okay, this sounds like really good information. So I'm gonna go in here and see if something catches my energy, if something sparks my interest, if something, because the thing that I'm not necessarily interested in, and this has been another challenge for me personally, is I'm not into the treadmill. So what I mean by that is, I when there is a prescribed pattern for how something is supposed to be done, or the way it's done according to other people who have done it in their fashion, I'm challenged by that because I'm not them. And so the choices that they made, the choices that were available to them, the things that they engaged in order to create that experience for themselves are not a part of my experience. I didn't bring that particular bunch of baggage with me for my experience. So I got to kind of go to these things and say, okay, how does it resonate with my collection? How does it resonate? Is there something in my collection of stuff that resonates with this that I can grasp? And this is a little different too than the idea of, because I keep hearing in my head, well, maybe Jim, you're in resistance, or maybe you just don't want to pay attention to what needs to be done. And I find that that's not the case, because I'm also not in resistance to seeing where I might be in avoidance.
Yeah, talk about full circle.
So it's okay. I'm okay with recognizing I'm in resistance. I'm okay with saying, oh God, geez, Jim, you're like, you got the walls up all over the place. And then I can observe that, and then I can step into that and see. And so it's always this process of uh, of feeling into it. It's always and it's not always a secure place, I can tell you for sure. But what I do know for sure is that the trust and faith that I have developed and worked to strengthen carries me through some pretty tenuous circumstances internally.
Yes.
Where I mean, a perfect example. I have been fortunate enough, through this pandemic experience, that I qualified for unemployment for a period of time, and that has been incredibly helpful to nailing down all these particulars about the show and getting the book published and getting it finished. And it's been an extraordinary time and an extraordinary gift that I never anticipated, but what has served me very well, and getting to have that experience. And that's now changing. So it's causing a shift in my world now, because I'm saying, oh, crow, what am I going to do now? How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? Because I don't know yet. So all I can do is feel into it and say, okay, this change is occurring. Now, how am I going to respond to it? And at the same time I'm having that experience, there's my insides, are the ego's going at it. Oh my God, we're not going to survive. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh my God, what's going to, and that feeling is there. It's around, but my choice is, okay, it's okay. It's you have nothing to worry about. Everything is fine. You're not going to. This isn't a survival issue. You're not going to be on the street. You're not going to be dead. And if that comes up and that happens, well, then we'll confront that when it happens.
Right.
But knowing that now I'm in this major pace of change, so the choices are in this moment. I can be freaking out about it, and I can be upset about it, and I can ruin my day about it if I wanted to, because it literally is kind of saying, okay, poof, time for a change. So that's just even a recent example. And so just walking through that and navigating it and continuing to support the alignment, so that whatever's next is going to show up and I'm going to step into it. And that's just how it's going to be.
Got it. That emerges is, for as long as you can remember, you would seek out experiences and go as deep as you could into it. Oops. Talking with my hands took my mic away. Sorry. Yeah. So that's the pattern. You told the story of when you were a teenager and or a young man and were want to go to college. And you told your parents it's not about the grades, it's about the experience. And a lifetime of that now, 50 plus years, leads you to write this book. And I know from our many, many conversations over the years that you didn't have this intention of writing a book.
No.
and look for, okay, what am I going to write about this? Am I going to write about that? In fact, it took a while for, I think, you to accept that you were writing a book.
Mhm.
And so your authority clearly is your experience and your ability to reflect on it and put it forward in a way that's useful to the world, who can and enable sometimes dramatic transformation. The paradox that I think it's important for the world to know is the book is not about you. It's not about you, Jim, even though it's filled with stories of your experiences. Those are simply a means to explain the idea and bring it to life. So anything you want to say about that?
I appreciate the distinction a lot, because that's exactly how it's presented. This is about, ultimately, I think, as a foundation of this book, is about changing our relationship with fear. And the whole thrust of the book to me is that when you change your relationship with fear, it changes everything. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. That takes time, and that takes focus and energy to walk with. And I think that's what happens in the book is this sort of taking you on this journey through the process. How did it evolve? How is it in our experience, so that you have a grasp of where it comes from and what it's about. What is it? How is it introduced into the culture? How is it introduced into us? Because if it's a choice, it means it was something that was chosen. Well, meaning that those choices existed for me and for my parents and for their parents and for everybody beyond that. So the cool thing is that the generational aspects of this are so profound, because fear is something that evolves in the culture, but it also evolves in humanity. And as it evolves, it becomes more and more like it looks like it was natural. It looks like it's something we came in with. And what we're going through and understanding the evolution of it is that that's not the case. It's been introduced and then trained. And then once you understand that, we can move into, how is that impacting me personally? How does that energy of fear show up in my world on a day-to-day basis, so that you can see it, identify it, understand it, and then how do I step out? How do I disconnect from that consciousness to create a new, more expanded consciousness? And that's really the journey that you go through with this book, and that's why I think it's so powerful and has such a profound impact at changing your life, because you change that relationship with fear, you change everything.
Beautiful. I want to propose an experiment to Mr. Experience.
Okay.
Are you open to that?
I am. And can we do that right after we take a break?
Of course.
Because we are at that juncture that we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back, guys. All right, we're back with all of my bells and whistles.
Yeah.
I have so much fun with those little bells and whistles. It's just so fun. All right. So you wanted to go where now?
I was proposing an experiment tied to experience, and that is for listeners and viewers to do what I'm asking you to do. So, for example, I want to ask you, or I am asking you, when did you first learn about fear, and what do you remember about how it was inside you? So the experiment is asking listeners and viewers at the same time, if they're in a safe space to do this, to consider the same question. When did they first learn or experience fear, and what do they recall? So you can demonstrate for us. What do you recall as your first experience with fear?
Interestingly enough, the very first experience of fear that I still remember to this day, I have no idea what it was. I was still in my crib. So whatever that is, 2, 1, whatever, wherever that is, I had a dream, I had a nightmare of this fiery being thing that was coming after me in my dream. I don't know why I still remember this. It was that impactful. But that was a long, long, long time ago. And that's all I remember. And that's the only snippet I've ever remembered. There's the sensation that is still kind of, it's not nearly what it was, obviously, but I can still tap into the confusion and terror and fear that I felt in that moment of that dream. And it's such a bizarre thing to have that little snippet of a thing. But the other thing that flashed for me when you were talking is, I think the thing for me, at least that I didn't get to recognize this until a little bit later in my late teens and early 20s, but I developed a powerful arrogance as a young person. And in my experience, I think that shielded me a lot, because I didn't, while I would be feeling all of the feelings, I never really, I was able to use the arrogance to sort of move myself, if that makes any sense. Because it was like I could use this shield to pretend I was okay, or that I was going to be okay. And that shield of arrogance actually became faith and trust down the road, interestingly enough. But initially, it was this really powerful arrogance. I mean, I got that feedback a lot as a young person, because I just assumed that I just showed up and said, this is what's happening. And I just did my life that way. So the moment when I was standing outside of my parents' house at 2 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning or whatever the heck it was, having been out carousing, and not being legal, but having borrowed my parents' car in the middle of the night. My mother had locked the screen doors, so I couldn't get in, so I'd have to knock and to get in the house, because she was so frustrated by how I was getting out at night. And I stood there realizing that that was my choice, and having the arrogance at that point to say, I'm not going to play that game. And I walked away from their home and walked 6 miles to the nearest town and never went back. Literally never went back.
Wow.
And, we lived on a street of 13 houses in a beautiful area. It was a stunning, and please bear in mind, I did not have a bad childhood, guys. It wasn't that I lived in a circumstance that was abusive and horrible and anything like that. I had both parents. I had 3 younger brothers. We had a dog and a cat and lived in a house. It was a very good upbringing. But this brain, that arrogant kid that just knew he had to do something different. So I think I confronted fear with arrogance for a long time. When I got ill the first time that I knew that I was ill, that's when I think I confronted the enormity of the fear that I'd not confronted for most of the rest of my life. Because that's when it all came at me, when I was starting to see all of the behaviors and all of the ways that I treated people and the ways that I used my energy so inappropriately to go forward, meaning it served me to get where I got to. But if I was going to get where I wanted to get, which was about this expansion of growth, it wasn't going to happen with that energy. And so all of that had to be broken down. So it took probably right around into my late teens, early 20s, when I was in intensively dealing with, at that point, I had moved from New York City to Arizona. And when I moved from New York City to Arizona, when I was in New York, I was at about 165 pounds was my normal weight. When I moved, I was 105 pounds, and didn't know that I was that sick. Had a deadly intestinal parasite. Things were not pretty. It was not a good scene. I remember when I landed in Arizona, and I hadn't seen Mona for a few months prior to that, and she was floored. Didn't say anything to me at the time because she realized that I didn't have any. That's where the arrogance served me. I had no clue I was that sick. I just assumed I looked good because I had my cheekbones were looking good and my gut was skinny. So I mean, coming out of New York, I was wanting to be an actor. I was wanting to be famous. I wanted to be a star. So I'm like, dang, look at you. You're looking all fine, and so I was like thinking I was doing all that. And she looked at me and she said it took everything in her power not to just break down in tears because I literally looked like a concentration camp victim. I mean, I was that skinny, and I'll have to pull up a picture and show it to you sometime. I think I have it in my box. So that was a long version to answering your question, but the elements of fear I think I covered with a lot with arrogance, but then once I had to confront them and lose the arrogance, that was the most extraordinary 20 years of my life, because that's really what it took to just continue to break down the structures that I had created in my life about who I was and what I was, and how I protected myself, and how rather than be afraid, I would use fear in an arrogant way to deflect, push, to either push people away or circumstances away so that I didn't have to deal with them. And then I was suddenly confronted with all of it.
Right. Ooh, what a story. And it goes back to when you were a baby in a crib, and for some reason that nightmare, the feeling of that nightmare and the imagery really stuck with you. It reminds me of, there's a chapter, a really fascinating and very, I'd say, thought-provoking chapter in your, well, there's a lot of thought-provoking chapters in your book, but this one in particular was about being born and the parents we choose to be born to, and the parents are doing their best, but sometimes it's not particularly helpful, where in protecting us, they teach us fear and so on. And so I'm thinking how the book maps to your life, not necessarily sequentially, but you draw on experiences from birth through current. And yet you didn't collect them with that intention. It's not like, well, I'm going to live 50 some years and make this compilation and then turn into a book or a series of books. It just came about. I wonder, in the book you talk about several really big experiences, including cancer. And why am I doing this? I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but I wonder if you can help us understand the value of those big experiences, the real huge wake-ups, like I might die if I don't do something, as well as the little tiny, the micro experiences that we have constantly around us that we can choose to notice or not. And again, I invite listeners to do a parallel process.
Yeah, that's such a great question, because my immediate response to that was, there isn't any difference. An experience is an experience is an experience. So the depth of the experience is going to be based on my choices. It's going to be based on at all the junctures that I had when I was standing outside of my parents' house. That choice, as I've talked about in other shows, created a whole alternate reality potential of what I could do from here. And so at every juncture, I see them the same way. They may not be as consequential, but at the same time, I think they are, because the disease processes, to me, the big ones, the ones that stop you in your tracks, are those things that we manifest in order to bring our awareness to what we say we want. So for me, I had been living a life of constant desire to and this has been true again for as long as I can remember. I thought I was going to be called to the priesthood originally, um, and felt that very strongly because I always felt a very powerful relationship with myself and what I call God or the universe. There's always been for me that, and I think that was partly where the arrogance helped me, was that I know I'm going to be okay, and this doesn't look good, so I'm going to fight my way through it this direction. That when the cancer showed up, when the parasite showed up, there were three really key junctures, but those junctures were about course correction. Those were, you say you're going this direction, but you're not. Your energy is not going that direction. So there's some conflict here. You say your desire is, before this whole thing with the parasite happened, was I went through a huge transition and wrote this long ass Dear God letter, not literally, let's see, that would have been the week before I left for Arizona. And yeah, so right toward the end of leaving from New York to Arizona, I had reached a point of frustration. I realized I wasn't going to be doing the acting thing. I didn't have the skin for it. I didn't have the desire for it that I thought I did once I got in it and saw what it was. So I was feeling really bummed out, and because I really thought that was all my apples were in that basket. That was what I was going to be doing. And I was still doing the consciousness thing, but from the perspective of how it was going to serve me to become successful. So I was using spirituality as a way of saying, okay, if I can get my crap out of the way, then I'll be successful. and realized that when I landed in Arizona, when I got confronted with that, how ill I was, I had to stop and go, oh, I can't do lip service to this anymore. I really have to, if I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, then I have to do the work. I have to unravel. And that was, if anything, that was the scariest part of everything. And because that, when you're standing on this side of making that breakthrough, looking to the other side is tremendously frightening, because you can't see what's on the other side. You can't see, and I couldn't see anything past the kind of crappy energy I had been living with. So to say that there was this light over here and I'm over here kind of mired in all of my craziness, it was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there from here. And I don't know that I can. I don't know that from what I can see, I don't know that this guy is all that good. And I don't know that I got what it takes to get to the other side of that, because I don't know, with the things that I've done in my life at that point, am I a good enough person? Am I a right enough person? Am I lovable enough? I don't obviously think I am any of those. I'm a failure as an actor. I'm a failure in New York. I left my parents' home. I didn't finish school. I mean, all of those things accumulate. And so it got to a place of, and the same thing, cancer was different because I had lived 25 years of a different experience at that point, but the same thing applied, in that I was not fully integrated into what I said, my desire was. So those confrontations of those physical processes forced me to make a decision at that point. Am I going the direction I say I want to go, or am I not? And if I'm not, then stop doing that. At that point, not realizing, I didn't have the understanding of my core vibration in that same fashion. I didn't have the understanding of alignment in the same fashion. I was still learning those things. So they just helped to bring it all into focus. And it is overwhelming, because when you have to stand in front of your own stuff and go, okay, I have to move all of this debris out of my way in order to find me, that is very overwhelming and fearful. And that's really what I see those as. And I see that's true for everybody. I don't see it as a failing. I see it as choices that led to a place that your core desire is that you came into this world wanting to show up in a particular fashion. And while you're trying to navigate that, you aren't paying attention. You're still dividing your energy. You're pulling that rubber band in a way that you're stretching it far beyond its capacity, because you want your cake and you want to eat it too. And that's sort of been that was the theme of my life for a long time, having my cake and eating it too, and realizing, well, of course I want to eat my own cake, but there is a certain amount of reality to that, which is, being on one side of the threshold and being on the other side. You can't straddle the threshold and live there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what those events did, was to say, you can't straddle, dude. You gotta choose to walk through. In order to walk through, you got to clean this room, and this room is full of a lot of stuff you don't need. So, and then over time, that becomes less of a need to clear the space as it is to make a path. Because if I don't pay attention to it and I continue the path, then those things now kind of dissipate because of lack of attention. And that's a whole other understanding that's come over time, is you don't have to attend to every piece of minutia. You can simply stop putting your attention there and put it somewhere else, and let that begin to inform your energy and inform your experience. So as you do that more and more, you build trust and faith in the confidence of that pathway. And so then that's where everything then begins to become objects in the field of your awareness, because you can say, oh, here's this object. Is it necessary or even important for me to attend to? Or am I better just staying tiled into this flow of energy and let the universe take me around this to something else? So I still have choice. I can ride the flow and move into something different because I'm not attending to it, or I can attend to it, and that's going to put my focus there for a bit to do whatever I perceive I need to do there. So the choice is always there. It's just a question of how I'm going to engage it. And that's how I chose to engage those situations. When I was sitting in the parking lot at the hospital after I was diagnosed with anal cancer, there was a profound moment there, because I'd been doing work for a long time, and I had gone through this process with this getting, near death with this parasitic situation. And that was, I think, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years later, I think. But the cancer thing then became, that was another assessment piece, because I had gotten married to a woman who I'd been married to for many years. She was an incredible teacher and guide in my life. But I was also still a gay man who was a gay man from the day I was, as for anything I've ever seen in my life from the day I was born. I've never had a different inclination. And the choice to get married and to go into the relationship was all about survival for me, because of how sick I had gotten and how much my life had fallen apart prior to that. But you can't build a foundation of spirituality on fear. So you got all that becomes an unraveling. So sitting in the parking lot, thinking about contemplating how I ended up here, it became abundantly clear to me in that moment, because in my marriage and my lack of authenticity in particular, for the last 4 or 5 years of the marriage, we stopped creating together. We didn't stop creating together. We stopped creating good things together. And we started creating really ugly things together. And the dark clouds and the fighting and just the continual nonsense was all about my lack of authenticity in the situation. And so sitting there, I could see that I had spent all of that energy, all of that negative energy that I had not controlled or managed or dealt with. And in that moment, realized why I was where I was, and that now I had a different choice to make. And how was I going to step into that choice? And how was that going to unfold? And it was just as intense, but different in that I was far less resistant. And I also knew, because of the time that it evolved, that I didn't have to attend to every bit and piece. I could really seriously focus myself into where do I want to go, and go there and clear the debris along the way. So, yeah.
After every answer, I want to take a deep breath and take it in. And your book is filled with examples and stories like that of what you're saying now, and what happened, what you learned along the way, and how people can make sense of it, to, in your words, unraveling, and move away from, or see fear as what it is, an illusion, and make a choice. And I think this is a subtitle, I keep forgetting. The subtitle is Unraveling
the Illusion of Our Separation from Love.
Yes. Yeah. Fear is a choice, unraveling the illusion that separates us from love. So in the last few minutes, can you talk about love?
I can. I think of anything that I have learned and probably even more so, rather than learned, experienced at a deep level. The love has always been present. This is really powerful to me. The love was never not there. The love has always been there to guide me, to support me, to fill the space when I wasn't feeling like I was enough. Love for me, I kind of personalize it because love to me is God. Love to me is everything. I don't always live there as clearly as I would love to, as I would like to. But what I always recognize is that everything always works out for me. I've made it to 56 years in this world, having no idea how I did it, except that I was guided by love, because ultimately I knew that. Somehow I knew that. Whether I could engage that relationship in a deep fashion initially was my challenge. That was my baggage. That was the things that had to be dealt with, was what's in the way of me and love. You know, I could say that was true of standing at my parents' door. What's in the way of me and love? Because I had a viewpoint of my life at that point. When I got sick the first time, I had a viewpoint of my life that changed radically. When cancer came, I had a viewpoint of my life. When HIV came, I had a viewpoint of my life. And all of them helped to alter that. But what altered them was allowing myself to reconnect to my love. And I say my love in that this field carries all of my baggage, all of my stuff. And sometimes that the light at the end of the tunnel is love. The light at the end of the thing we keep projecting to is just reconnecting to love. It's just being able to set aside the ego, set aside the preconceived ideas of what we think it's supposed to be, to allow it to be exactly what it is, which is spectacular. And there's no other way to go there. I mean, there's a million ways to go there, and you'll eventually get there. The more you can release the resistance, the greater that experience can be more quickly. It's a time thing, guys. It's not a you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. One can go faster, one can go slower, but that's going to be different for all of us, because we all came in with a different agenda. So your agenda, your core vibration is helping to direct the traffic. It's keeping you connected to love. That's why I focus so much on that core vibration. Tap into it. You may not understand what it's unfolding for you, but that doesn't actually matter. That's the adventure. That's the adventure, is letting yourself move into that and trusting and having faith that you brought yourself here. You've lived this life. You've survived these experiences. You are so much more than you give yourself credit for. So just step into the love and get to feel that, and then do something else, and then go somewhere else, then take your next step. That's what I think about love.
Beautiful. And that was very moving. I could see in your face.
Yeah, it was because it's there all the time.
Yeah.
It's never not been there.
That's so powerful. I want to say quickly to our friends who are listening and viewing this, that this is right here, right now, has been an adventure in truth. The name of the podcast. You're just talking about it. That's the adventure. It is in this truth that love is always there. And I want to encourage everyone to get this book now. I got mine on the first day of pre-order, and this lets you have Jim's energy in your pocket or Jim on your shoulder. So if this podcast and others resonates with you, if these ideas do, please get the book. It'll be one of the best investments you've ever made. And if you're saying, yes, but money's really tight, consider other things you spend money on that cost whatever the book is, $15 or
$14. Yeah. And there's also the Kindle too. So
yeah. And if if that's the barrier, send me an email. And for the first 10 people who do, I'll buy the book and send it to you. So my email is Moshe, Moshe, at Moshe Engelberg, MosheEngelberg.com. Just tell me who you are and your address. And first 10 people, I'll get the book to you. But if you're out there listening to this, get the book.
That's extraordinary. I can't even process that right now. Thank you. We do have to go. Moshe, this has been awesome. I really love you and appreciate you so much, and appreciate the incredible support that you continually bring in my life. And I can only hope that I provide as much to you.
Totally.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for the show. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. And thanks everybody out there in E360 TV land and YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for being here. www.adventuresintruth.com. You can find all the links to the book. If you want to work with me, you can find information there. Look forward to talking to you guys very soon. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. Oh, I have to do the end. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to connect with you. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. To learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, or to book a session with Jim, you can email us at adventuresintruth@gmail.com, or you can join us on the web at www.adventuresintruth.com. Tune in next time for another great Adventures in Truth podcast.